You have 3.5 minutes. Awesome. I'm seeing some really great reflections on how things are a change. Make sure you also answer the question on how it is staying the same. So remember to include the continuity. You have 1 minute left. I'm giving us 1 extra minute to make sure we are able to answer that question. How is it a continuity? Awesome, great responses, Samaj and Kayla, acknowledging the connection between these programs and ones from the past. Awesome, that is time. So as a reminder, in regards to the Great Society, a lot of people call it the next New Deal, as it expands the role of the federal government in the lives of individuals, specifically on making sure that they have equitable access to things like healthcare, food, education, and things like that. And so while many look at the New Deal as a way to economically assist individuals in American society, many people see the Great Society taking that one step further and helping them socially. And so today we are going to be looking at Was the Great Society a success? Did it work? But before we start reading our documents today, I am going to be showing you a clip from Lyndon Johnson's address to the University of Virginia. In this commencement speech, he is specifically focusing on why the Great Society needs to happen. So specifically, while we are watching this video, I want you to keep notice of one thing. What does he mean by running a race? Again, we're going to be focusing on what does he mean by running a race. Make sure I get my screen set up. Okay, computer's in. And Yabdi, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear it? It should be starting in just a second.
Freedom is the right to share. Share fully.
Okay, it doesn't look like we can hear it. Oh wait, you can hear it? I think it's my screen. It's my computer.
In American society, to vote, to hold a job.
I'm gonna restart it.
Freedom is the right to share. Share fully and equally in American society. To vote, to hold a job, to enter a public place, to go to school. It is the right to be treated in every part of our national life as a person equal in dignity and promise to all others. But freedom is not enough. You do not wipe away the scars of centuries by saying now, you are free to go where you want and do as you desire and choose the leaders you please. You do not take a person who for years has been hobbled by chains and liberate him, bringing up to the starting line of a race, and then say, you are free to compete with all the others, and still justly believe that you have been completely fair. Thus, it is not enough just to open the gates of opportunity. All our citizens must have the ability to walk through those gates. And this is the next and the more profound stage of the battle for civil rights. We seek not just freedom, but opportunity. We seek not just legal equity, but human ability. Not just equality as a right and a theory, but equality as a fact and equality as a result.
Awesome, 15 more seconds to collect your thoughts, and then we will share out in the Zoom chat. In the chat, you have 1 minute. According to Lyndon Johnson in this speech, what is the purpose of equality? How do we make equality happen? Take 1 minute in the chat. How do we make equality happen? According to Lyndon Johnson. 1 minute in the chat, go ahead and get started. Awesome, thank you, Kayla, for starting us off. 30 more seconds. Awesome, Arabia, Dwayne, love your ideas. Thank you, Sierra. 30 more seconds. Thank you, Heaven. Thank you, Giovanni. Awesome. And the way that Lyndon Johnson thinks that we can achieve this equality is through the Great Society. He saw that as the way to help make sure that everybody approaching the race has a fair shot. So we're going to be looking from the words of two different historians at whether or not the Great Society was successful. So in your annotations, I'm going to send us down to the next document. You are going to be looking for the claim. So what is the historian arguing? And the significance, was the Great Society a success? You'll have 6 minutes to read and annotate this passage. We'll come back to discuss this passage, and then we'll move on to the next document. 6 minutes to read and annotate this source. Go ahead and get started. I'll be putting the link to the Desmos into the chat once again. You have 4 minutes left. In 1 minute, I'll be checking your claim. Again, in 1 minute, I'll be checking your claim on the source to see if we have the author's argument correct. If you're charting your significance statement, make sure if you're saying it is or is not a success, tell me why. Again, tell me why it is or is not a success. You have 90 seconds left. I see some revisions on our work. Really great job. Awesome. I see us talking about voting, education, and poverty. Those are all great examples for this document. One more minute to finish up. Awesome. Take 10 seconds to finish up your final thoughts. Great. Now I'm going to add document 2 to our section where we're going to hear a different perspective on the Great Society. I misspoke earlier. We're going to read both documents and share our initial thoughts, and then we will come back together for discourse. So you will have 6 minutes to read and annotate document 2 now. You can go and slide down there in Desmos. And we're going to hear a different perspective on the war on poverty. So again, you have 6 minutes to read and annotate this document, and then we'll come back together to discuss. Once again, about halfway through, I will be looking for your claim annotation and making sure that you have specific evidence to back up your claim. 6 minutes, go ahead and get started. Four and a half minutes left. In 30 seconds, I'll be tracking your claim on the document. 4.5 minutes left. In 1 minute, I'll be tracking the claim. 2 more minutes. Awesome start so far. Again, just make sure we're being specific in our significance and our claim statements. One more minute to finish your annotations on document 2. Again, make sure those annotations are specific and ready to be used as evidence in discourse. Okay, that is time. In Desmos, I have a place for you to chart your initial responses. Was the Great Society a success? So go ahead and move on to the next slide. You're going to decide yes or no. I know you guys probably want to click both, but try to choose one side and find your piece of evidence to support that. You have 2 minutes to go ahead and chart these ideas. This is what you're going to use as your jumpstart into discourse. So 2 minutes to share your initial thoughts. Make sure you have that piece of evidence. Go ahead and get started. Again, make sure you have that evidence written down. Looks like we're pretty 50-50 as of right now. Awesome. I see us going back through, finding some evidence. $20 more seconds to finish charting down your evidence. I see some great quotes in addition to some great ideas put into our own words. Awesome. 20 seconds to finish charting down. And to start us off, can I hear from Sierra, then Yabdi, then Alexis, then Arabia? So Sierra, Yabdi, Alexis, Arabia, go ahead and unmute and share out your evidence and your ideas.
All right. I said that the Great Society wasn't a success because um they said that like a lot of like poverty, well not poverty, like teen pregnancy and disease in like urban areas were like going down, but then when the war on poverty started, it skyrocketed.
And Yapi.
Yeah, you can hear me? Hello.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, I said that the Great Society was a success because my evidence is, I think it's document 2. It says that rates of teenage pregnancy and venereal disease have been going down for years before the new 1960s. And then it said that the murder rate had also been going down, and if less people were dying and there was like less teenage pregnancy, I would say that that is definitely a success because that's all that goes on now. So yeah.
I said in document 1, even though Johnson helped provide for the poor people and their voting rights, in document 2, it lessens the purpose that it was not successful because it explains the impacts that it had on the society, and it impacts the Black people that were not considered part of the society.
Awesome. And Arabia had to step away, so I'm actually going to read her response. She said it was a success because it helped to get the necessities needed for the poor and the African Americans, and also helped them with voting, which is their voice in society, which helped their voice in society become stronger, which is evidence that she pulled from document 1. Awesome. So I want to zoom in specifically on document 2. So if everybody can track document 2. Looking at document 2, does this document feel reliable? I want you to take 30 seconds, really look at it, look at the source line, look at its contents, and in the Zoom chat when you're ready, go ahead and share it. Does this document feel reliable? Yes or no with an explanation. Go ahead and start sharing out as you are ready. Awesome, I see some no's because it's a secondary source. Interesting. Specifically on the content of the document, what kind of person do you think would write a document like this? What kind of bias does this author seem to have? Continue to revise and share out your ideas in the chat. Awesome, thank you, Kamaya. So again, what kind of bias does it feel like this author has? Fifteen more seconds, make sure you're sharing in the Zoom chat for that participation. Awesome, Giovanni. Awesome, Skyen. Great. Can I hear from Kamaya and then Giovanni and then Skyen? What bias does this author seem to have?
I said I feel like the author is just against the Great Society or probably anti-President Johnson because they continuously say negative things about the society and don't consider the positive things that it may have done.
Giovanni, are you able to unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I said that this person probably didn't need these programs or didn't like them in general.
I said that document 2 focuses on Black Americans and Americans as a whole.
Awesome. Awesome job, ladies, pointing out some of the major biases that this author seems to have. And the reason why I bring this up is as young historians that you are, just because a historian has a PhD doesn't mean that they aren't putting their own bias into everything. Almost all history has some type of bias when you start having somebody's interpretation or filter go through it. So while his criticisms of the Great Society are interesting to look at and good to consider, it's also important when we read a historian's perspective that we're considering what kind of bias they have in addition to like any source. Any primary source you consider their bias or POV, it's always good to do that with secondary sources as well. So looking at the Great Society and what we know about things like the New Deal and how that is transformed in the Great Society in general, how does the Great Society change Americans' relationship with the federal government? So again, how does this change Americans' relationship, America's relationship with the federal government? I'm going to take 45 seconds in the chat. How does this change Americans' perspective or relationship with the federal government? Awesome, Skyen. Awesome, Sierra. Thank you for sharing out in the chat. Awesome, Heaven. Awesome, Heaven. Can you unmute and share out your response from the chat? It was really good. That's why I'm having you share it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I said it essentially provides a relationship because the people are gaining the rights they wanted and becoming a part of society, including African American.
Yes, that goes back to what Lyndon Johnson said in his speech that we listened to earlier. Americans now, the point of the Great Society is to help bolster Americans before they start the race of life, giving Americans in general the assistance they need to have an equitable life in the long term. Unfortunately, the Great Society lost a lot of its funding when Vietnam started, as we discussed in the lecture. So a lot of these programs do not have the funding even today that they did in the 1960s when it first started, but that is something to look at. Tomorrow will be a lecture, so just as a heads up, make sure that you are here and on time, because as we know, lectures take up the full period. So make sure that you are prepared for that when you join class. And it's going to be on the 1960s social movements, so we get to learn about hippies and all that fun stuff. So we will be talking about that tomorrow. And then it's a pretty normal rest of our week before spring break. I'll also be posting the next chapter's homework, which I will be posting it tonight/tomorrow morning, and it will be due the Monday we come back from break. So you'll have 2 full weeks to get it done. If you guys have any questions about that, please let me know as always. As a reminder, Q4 grade books are starting this week, so now is the best opportunity to start strong with full completion and submission of all of our work. That is it in terms of announcements. Please let me know if you have any questions. I just increased access to the exit ticket where you're going to write an intro paragraph. Make sure that it has contextualization, a bridge, and a thesis statement. I'll be looking for all 3 of these sentences in your responses. We are just about a month away from the AP exam, so we need to take as many opportunities to practice our introduction paragraphs as possible. You have the remainder of class once you submit on Desmos and on Google Classroom. I will double check and then you'll be free to go. Awesome. I see a lot of setting up context with naming the era that we are writing on. Love the use of dates for your context. As a reminder, please make sure you have your contextualization statement and make sure that your thesis has a line of reasoning. Awesome. Thank you, Heaven. You can go. Thank you, Kayla. You can go. Again, I'm looking for full paragraphs and submission on Google Classroom before I dismiss you. Thank you, Alexis. You can sign off. Thank you, Ashley. You can go. Thank you, Giovanni. You can go. Thank you, Kamaya. Great job. You can go. Thanks, Mela. You can go. Thank you, Sierra. You can go. Thank you, Skyanne. You can go. Thank you, Yabdi. Okay, that is time. Go ahead and submit. Don't forget to submit on Google Classroom, and I will see you guys tomorrow.